everyone. Welcome back to TGIF. Sorry we're a day late. I was having a bit of a rough evening last night. George was gracious enough to allow us to record this morning, but I started the intro a little late there, so you guys already know that I'm Nurse Justin with the legs for days there on the intro, and I accidentally cut off Dr. George. So Dr. George, my man, how's it going this morning? I hope everything has been going well with you down there in Hurricane Alley, my friend.
Yeah, so dealing with a little bit of hurricane stuff. I will say this: we got very, very lucky, very, very fortunate. We never lost power. No real damage to the house. Little flooding in the front yard, little flooding in the backyard. One of the neighbors' trees was literally uprooted and crashed through our fence. But other than that, we escaped with very minimal damage. Very fortunate, as I know there's still, I think there's still like 500,000 people in the state of Florida with no power right now. So, I mean, I feel bad for them. I know that we are very lucky and fortunate to be where we are in the situation that we are. And just thankful that things did work out the way that they did. Now we can prepare for another one because we got another one I hear coming at us called Nadine.
And friends of the show also know that Jason lives down there as well, so
Yep.
he also has come out relatively unscathed. So, for the most part, right? As I catch you while you're drinking.
Yeah, he had a part of his fence that came down as well. I was over at his place yesterday. Me and my son cut up the fence and brought it down to the curb for him and his wife while he was at work. So they got it taken care of. They got a makeshift fence up right now for the dogs, so the dogs can still go. They have 2 greyhounds, and the greyhounds actually created a small track in the backyard that they run, and they weren't able to run the track because the fence was in part of the track, and they weren't allowed to hang around outside very much because of the situation with the fence being down and all that. But they got a makeshift fence up now. They got the fence has been cleared from the yard, and the dogs are happy that they have their track back.
Very good. As long as the dogs are happy, that's all we need.
That's all that matters. So they were going to bring the dogs to his in-laws, but apparently the in-laws have cats, and the 2 greyhounds will kill the cats. That's how they were trained to run, is by chasing cats. So Not a good idea to have them over at the in-laws.
Tell you what, man, knowing you the way that I know you, I don't feel like a hurricane's going to slow you down too much. Like, I feel like you're that guy that's going to have your cup of coffee, standing out on the front porch, watching it, just flipping it off and saying "screw you, Milton," Melton or whatever as it.
Well, I did go. I did go out. What was it? Wednesday night, like around. It was probably like around 11 or 12, and did a little video that's up on my Twitter, just showing the flooding so far in the front yard. And Thursday morning, I was up. So I stayed up Wednesday and going into Thursday until about 4. I finally passed out about 4:15 a.m. I was up at 8. I was out of the house by 9:15. I had a couple properties I had to go check on. I had to check on the house that I have in Mims. That one was fun. I got there. There was a septic tank floating in my backyard for that house. And septic tanks are not supposed to be floating. But it was okay. I should have thought about this a little bit before the storm when I did my prep over there. The septic tank we put in was brand new. The house does not have city water. It's not hooked up to the water yet. So there's no water weight in there holding it down. So it's just a big plastic dome thing. So when the rain came in and went underneath it, it just filled up the hole from the septic tank and just pushed it up. So that wasn't too bad. And then I drove over to a friend of mine's house who has a big tree down in his front yard. We're supposed to cut that down this weekend. I don't know if we're going to be able to get a chainsaw to do it. Might have to do it next weekend. Went over to my father's house, who he's had plans for months to go to Tennessee, and those plans just happened to coincide. He left to go to Tennessee on Tuesday. So just before the storm hit, he hauled butt out of here. But those were plans he's had for months. It just worked out perfect to where it was right before the storm he left.
Mm-hmm.
Over to his house and he surveyed his property. He had a bunch of fence damage, and then we went to the house where he's having his new house built. He's going to sell the house that he's in now and basically pay off the house he's having built. And that one had a whole bunch of fence damage as well. So there's been a ton of fence damage for a lot of people. Not surprised. Old wood fences dealing with a bunch of rain and wind, they don't last.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll definitely take just some fence damage. But our boy Chris here, Hero J, he's actually in Tampa. Said he's saying that it could have been worse, so that's good to hear. So, and he is actually, I told you I was running a little bit behind. He and I were talking some fantasy powers leagues and some Frank questions, and he's the guy I was talking to about all that stuff. So obviously he's got fantasy football in the mind, so that means he must be fine. So we appreciate you tuning in here, Hero J. So all right,
I do have one friend of mine who lives over, and we can move on from hurricanes after this. I got a friend of mine who lives over in the St. Petersburg area. She works for the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and I was texting her. I texted her about 2:15 a.m. On Wednesday night, or technically Thursday morning, I guess. It was just after the storm looked like it was clearing that area. And I texted her to check on her. I said, "Hey, are you okay?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm at work." I was like, "Well, I kind of assumed you were at work. For this kind of stuff, it's kind of all hands on deck." But I was like, "How's the house?" I said, "I know you and her son, Tommy. He's a Marine as well." And I was like, "How are you and Tommy?" And she's like, we're doing okay." She's like, "He's at the house right now." She's like, "We had some water get into the house, but it wasn't a lot." She goes, "We lost a whole bunch of our fence, and fortunately for us, though, we still have power. And luckily, they never did lose power. So happy for her. All things considered, a little water, a little bit of a defense being down. Like, take your small victories when you can, because I know there's a lot of people out there way less fortunate than her, way less fortunate than me. And I'm glad to hear everything is good with Jay here.
Yeah, definitely. Outstanding. Well, it's good to see that you have been upgraded from questionable to full go for week 6. I know that in my mind I had you penciled in as doubtful, but you never once elevated yourself to doubtful. You pulled a Michael Pittman on us, which we'll get to that in a little bit. But when everybody else was counting you out, you said, "No, I'm ready to play." So just so everybody knows ahead of time, the next 2 weeks I will be out. Going on a little bit of a fall break trip. The wife and I got a little cabin in Kentucky. So it's going to be fun and quiet. Let's see. We are on to quarterbacks.
I'll hit the quarterbacks real quick if you'd like.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I really want to do the first one. That's why. That's the only reason I want to do the quarterbacks.
All right.
Actually, I'll start with who's out, and then I'll get to the one I really want to talk about.
Gotcha. No, I see the one you want to talk about.
It's probably not the one you think it is, to be honest.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're going to start with Derek Carr. He's dealing with an oblique injury. It's his left oblique. He's got an oblique strain. He's likely to miss 2 to 3 weeks. If you're feeling froggy, you can start. I'm drawing a blank now. The backup there. He just got
Rattler.
His first. Rattler. Spencer Rattler. If you're feeling froggy, you can start him. I personally would steer clear of him outside of 2 quarterback leagues. Uh, at that point, you might be in a situation where you got a couple guys on bye, or you've got really, really worse options. Um, but Derek Carr, he's going to be out a couple of weeks. Matt Stafford's dealing with a back injury. It's just some soreness. He should be fine. He's on a bye week this week. You weren't starting him anyway, but just keep that in the back of your head. And then the one I want to talk about, Aaron Rodgers for the New York
See, I got it
Jets.
right. It's in the private chat.
Oh, is it? Okay, cool. I thought you were talking. I thought you were talking. Thinking I was going to talk about Josh Allen and his concussion / ankle injury.
No, no.
But no, Aaron Rodgers. He's dealing with an ankle and a hamstring injury, and really, what it is, it's really just a bruised freaking ego. That's the real reason he's on the injury list. That dude is. He's a jackass. He's a jackass. I'm going to say, I don't care if we get flagged by YouTube. I said ass twice. There's 3 times. I'm going to say it one more time. Dude's got a bruised ego because he's a jackass, okay? He's saying he's got an ankle strain, possibly high ankle. It's a mild hamstring. He will play through it, though. But he's a jackass. His real issue is he's a jackass. He's got a bruised ego. Last one that is new to the list this week, Josh Allen. The injury experts have him listed as a concussion. If you watched the game, you know he was out cold. If you've seen the clips on the sideline, they were giving him smelling salts. Now, I know I play the role of Dr. George. Justin, you play the role of Nurse Justin here. I got a question for you. How many times have you ever given somebody with an ankle injury smelling salts? Like, is that something that actually affects the ankle and can heal it?
Okay. So in a roundabout way, it's not like the direct form of medication that we would normally give somebody with an ankle injury, but that stuff does help everything.
It does. It wakes you up if you were sleeping a few moments before. Like, I feel like I should have taken some smelling salts before we did this show. Because I was sleeping right before this because I was up to 3 a.m., almost 3:30 playing Diablo.
So had you taken the smelling salt, your ankles would feel better.
They probably would, but more often than not, I would be wide the frickin' awake. So yes, he had a concussion. Apparently, he cleared concussion protocol on the sideline when they gave him smelling salts, but he's dealing with an ankle injury now. Now, what really does concern me about this is, if it truly was a concussion, like all video evidence points to,
Right.
he's going to be if he had a concussion and he was going through the protocol and like he normally would, and he would not have cleared it. I am concerned for him to be more susceptible to have another ankle injury this week.
Right.
Because you just don't move through the protocol as quick as a smelling salt on the sideline. So I am a little concerned about him. But apparently he cleared whatever test they gave him on that sideline that was less than a play.
Yeah. And,
also, we got. Go ahead.
But I was gonna extend that. It totally completely reminds me of when Tua went down with his back spasms injury. That they video evidence, everybody clearly saw that it was a concussion issue. Like, and Tua came back too soon from that. You know, like he's more susceptible to traumatic brain injuries now. Like, so yes, it is very concerning, and especially in Josh Allen's case with him running the ball as much as he does. I know he's a big boy, and I know he knows how to slide, he knows how to run, but still, if you put yourself out there, you never know when something like that is going to come back to haunt you. So, you ready for me to move on for the other quarterbacks here?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So next up,
and then run us right into the running backs too.
Gotcha. So the next up is Anthony Richardson. So earlier on in the week, I read something from Dr. Jesse Morris with his injury reports here, where it clearly stated that if Anthony Richardson comes back this week in week 6, that there is a much higher risk of further injury with his type of injuries. And we're talking hip pointer, oblique, and abdominal strains. And yet here we are sitting headed into week 6, and they are going to be playing Anthony Richardson. He says he's ready to go. The team is putting him in there. So I am very, very concerned. And even now, the update next to Dr. Jesse Moore says risky. And if Dr. Jesse Moore says risky, it's risky. on top of all of the other risk factors of injury with Anthony Richardson to begin with, now they're going to throw him out there when he has a higher probability of re-injury going into this week's matchup against the Titans, divisional matchup. The Titans defense are tougher than they look on paper. So I'm very concerned about this matchup for Anthony Richardson. I don't want to wish for him to get injured, but it's just one of those games where it's obvious that it's about to happen. So don't drop Joe Flacco just yet. Let's hang on to him because he's a better quarterback anyway. Will Levis is going to play this week against against the Colts. So they're facing each other. So Will Levis gets the start. He does have a right AC sprain, which is in his throwing arm, but it's also likely type 1. He had the bye week last week to heal it up. Looks like he's good to go for week 6 for what that matters or what that's worth. I honestly, you were talking about Spencer Rattler being a guy that you would maybe consider in deeper 2 quarterback leagues. I'll be honest with you, I'd probably start him over Will Levis at this point. But also Spencer Rattler is a guy. Like, what I like about that situation, if you're in a really tight spot with bye weeks and injuries and stuff like that right now, then Spencer Rattler is one of those guys where you get a rookie that comes in, you don't have any NFL game film on him. In that offense with those the amount of power he has there with with Kamara and Olave and I mean they have deep threats, they've got serviceable players everywhere. He could be a big surprise that gives this team a jump start that they need after having a little bit of a lull after those first couple of weeks, and then the teams start to get that game film on them. They know what to expect, but we see it all the time with players that don't have much of a history with a particular team. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick used to come in all the time for a new team, and he would spark that team, and he would have 3 or 4 great games, and then he would just kind of fizzle out and move on to the next team. Like he made a potentially Hall of Fame career out of doing that. Like, so I mean, I know there's arguments that he's not a Hall of Famer, but in my heart, he's my type of Hall of Famer. So, but Justin Herbert has a moderate issue right now. Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, and Russell Wilson all in and active. Russell Wilson is intriguing because he is active and like officially 100% active, ready to go. Yet they have him servicing as the backup to Justin Fields. So it makes me think that maybe they're leaning heavily towards continuing with Justin Fields until they start losing. If that should happen, then maybe they make the switch. So kind of a sticky situation. But if you have been riding with Justin Fields, you knew this was going to happen all along. So hopefully you made plans for it.
Yeah, I've got one league where my quarterbacks are Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson. So I'm debating, because what concerns me is if with and we'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow on the other show tomorrow, dude.
Title time.
Early. Title time. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't had enough sleep. I don't drink coffee. So. Yeah, I don't drink coffee. I got a bottle of Prime over here. Not a sponsor, but Logan, if you want to be a sponsor, we'll take your money. But that's not doing the job to wake me up this morning. Now there's all my water over there. But what concerns me is last week they had Russell Wilson as the third quarterback, the emergency quarterback. What concerns me with it is he's 100% cleared. He's ready to go. If Fields goes out and struggles like he's done so far for the most part, I can see them putting in Russell Wilson and switching quarterbacks to see if Russell gives that spark that Fields just doesn't seem to possess right now. So Fields has been good for fantasy, but as far as a football quarterback goes, he really hasn't been that great. So that really concerns me if you've been running the Fields train the last few weeks.
I'm not sure it's going to happen this week because they do face the Raiders, and the Raiders defense is bad enough to make Fields look good again, kind of like Atlanta and the Chargers and the Colts. They all let Fields look really good. When he goes up against tougher defenses, he looks like Justin Fields of Chicago. So next week, week 7, that might be the week it happens because they go up against the Jets in week 7. So if Fields can't get anything going that week, that might be.
I just got a text from Rich. It says, Justin, shut your dirty mouth.
All right. Well, since it's coming from Rich, no offense taken. I tell you what, Hero J here says, anyways, Trey Sermon
Yes.
must start due to JT injury. So that brings us into our running backs. Nice segue there, sir. So our running backs, I'll do the new ones here because it is a Trey Sermon question.
And then take
Trey
the first
Sermon.
one that's not new either, because that's your boy Jonathan Taylor.
Gotcha. So Trey Sermon actually is on the injury report right now himself with the collarbone issue, but it is a minor injury. He is a full go, 100% ready to go. So, but Trey Sermon again goes up against Tennessee. They're 11th against PPR fantasy running backs this season. They have faced a couple of pretty solid running backs though. That's kind of helped bolster those numbers a little bit. So I think that personally, if we could adjust it a little bit based off of their matchups, they're going to be closer to mid level against running backs. I think Sermon is definitely startable. Part of the reason why I made that trade with you earlier, Hero J, to get Trey Sermon in a whole nother league where I can rent players was so I could start him. If that was you, I'm getting confused. I might have made that trade with somebody else in that same league, but it is that league where I went to get Trey Sermon just so I could start him. I do think he's very startable, and so is Goodson for that matter. So between the two of them, Goodson actually serviced as the third down back, the more of the receiving down back in that offense. He still only had 3 catches, but it was for 31 yards. And that was against Jacksonville this past week is what I'm saying. So he played a little bit more than I really anticipated him to. I kind of figured he'd get about 5 touches. He got 8. He got about 30 more yards than I really planned on him getting. So Goodson may be a little bit more involved. He may have been more involved because of the collarbone injury. So if they're both playing in deeper leagues, they might both be serviceable. And of course, we're saying all of this because Jonathan Taylor is indeed out again this week. And Dr. Jesse Morris told us when it happened that it was going to be at least 2 weeks, maybe even 3. And now he has updated his chart, and it still says he'll be back week 7, maybe week 8. So now, it could be pushed back to possibly potentially a 4th week out for Jonathan Taylor. Ramondre Stevenson is the only one that's out that's new, so that we didn't already kind of see coming, and it was a calf bruise along with a little bit of fumbleitis, but he will be limited, but likely play is. Wait a minute. Yeah. No, originally he had said that he'll be limited, but he'll likely play. But he has updated his chart to show that he's out. We found that out yesterday. So no Ramondre Stevenson this week. So Gibson, guys, fire him up. If you're the sole running back in that backfield, and I know they have other guys that are just guys, but I mean, Gibson should get a very fair amount of touches this week. You've got Aaron Jones on bye and Devon Achane on bye that are both nursing injuries. With Achane, his was a concussion, so having this bye right now is crucial. That's really good because that gives him that extra week. So he should be ready by week 7, unless it's something that's super serious. So, but I'm sure we'll update you on that. I haven't heard anything outside of just a normal concussion for that one.
Yep.
Aaron Jones, right hip, possible hamstring, moderate concern for like a re-injury type thing for Aaron Jones. And he's saying that he should be back week 8 to week 10. Again, when I say he, Dr. Jesse Morris, that is theinjuryexperts.com with a Z instead of an S for experts. Make sure you go check them out, subscribe, pay that little subscription monthly for this because it's absolutely amazing spreadsheet to have. But guys that are in that were on the injury report, we've got Bijan is in, we've got Etienne is in, Alvin Kamara is playing. Eckler and Trey Sermon, all of those guys are definitely in. And Stevenson's the only one that's definitely out. The other guys on the list that you still need to kind of watch for and tune in Sunday morning on the Start Sit show if you need that update, and especially if you need an update on who to start, should they be last minute or last second scratches, would be James Cook with the turf toe. Let's see. Rashad White and Chase Brown Chase Brown's actually definitely in. We know that he's in. We got an update on him. He is playing. Chase Brown and Zach Moss are both playing. Neither of them have practiced much at all this week. I think they both put in a practice yesterday, so they are both playing. But kind of risky though, honestly, with those guys because they go up against the Giants, who again kind of middle of the road against running backs. Both of them banged up, both of them potentially splitting the carries and the workload. Maybe this becomes more of a pass happy offense for this week to kind of give those guys a little bit more of a break, or maybe they throw in a third guy. Just a risky play all around, but at the same time, you like to think that maybe the Bengals will be up on the Giants and they'll have to run the ball more. So whichever one you think is healthier, roll with them. But I think I'd probably give the nod there to Chase Brown because his was a quad bruise, and that's usually a pain tolerance thing. So he either knows he's a go or he's not. But with Zach Moss, I almost said Zach Morris.
Chase the bell.
With Zach Moss, his issue is a right high ankle sprain. So that one's a little bit more touchy. That one can be re-injured at just the wrong twist of a tackle. So I think I'm going to give the nod to Chase Brown there if you're the owner that houses both of those running backs. I think that's pretty much about it for the new ones. If you want to touch bases on any of those old ones and spill into our wide receivers.
Absolutely. So Joe Mixon showed up with a moderate ankle injury. He's got the high ankle or medium ankle sprain. He's a 50-50 odds to go this week. I think he is going to go. Brian Robinson Jr. from Washington is dealing with the knee sprain. He's 50-50 to go, but they expect him to play. Nick Chubb, or as I like to call him, Wolverine. He got that antimanium body in the lower half there. He's coming off the post ACL. They're not expecting him to play this week. He could return next week or the week after. I did notice on Sleeper in a couple leagues where I do have him, a couple of my dynasty leagues, they've actually started putting projected points up for him. But don't let that fool you. He's not playing this week. Devin Singletary with the New York Giants. He's got a mild groin strain. I'll have to refer to Mark on the size of the groin. Cordell Patterson, he is out. Again, he's dealing with the ankle sprain. They really didn't give any details. A couple of these other guys, only other one really you were probably starting at this point would be Bucky Irving from Tampa. He's got a minor hamstring strain. What's the keynote about that is we talked about Rashad White. He's dealing with a right mid-foot sprain. They've downgraded Rashad White to doubtful. So if you've been relying on Bucky Irving as a flex, I think you can bump him up to a solid RB2 with no Rashad White. I think if Rashad White is officially out, which is what he's trending towards, Bucky Irving for me would be a must start. I would view him as a wide receiver or running back 2 rather with upside.
Which is kind of sad too, because for Bucky Irving stands, people that are fans of Bucky Irving, we want to see him sit this week, having that mild hamstring strain. Yeah. But if they just can't do it and they've got to start him, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's a soft tissue issue with the hamstring, and those are susceptible to being re-injured again very easily.
Just let Baker throw the ball 80 times; it'll be fine.
just throw it all to Chris Godwin, though, please. And Sterling Shepard. Let's see some more Sterling Shepard love on our shows.
That was kind of nice, man.
He's having a nice little resurgence down in Tampa. I'm happy for him about that.
When he caught that touchdown, I was like, man, I thought he retired from the Giants like 16 years ago. I started digging through and looking at some of the teams he's been on. Like I had a little trip down memory lane. That was nice to see.
It was a rabbit hole you had no idea you were going to be going down that day, and then there you were. I actually started him. I took over a dynasty team. The dynasty team I took it over was trash, absolute trash. and I traded away a lot of good players for youth and some draft picks. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
that team has absolutely no business being 5-0. It's a super flex team. The only quarterback that is worth anything on that team is Jaden Daniels, who I drafted with the second overall pick because I didn't want the first overall pick. And hey, you take Caleb Williams, I'm more than happy to have Jalen Daniels. But that's the only quarterback worth anything on the team. My other quarterback that actually plays is Andy Dalton. That's how bad it is. I would start Bo Nix in that league. I would start what's his name? The one that I said you were just absolutely that's Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
I would start him in that league. Like that. That's how bad and hard up I am at the quarterback position. I was hoping to tank this year. Maybe get Shadur Sanders or one of the other quarterbacks coming out next year. Yeah, no, that team is 5-0 right now, and I'm number one seed in the league, and that team is like the worst 5-0. It reminds me of the Steelers a few years ago when like they were 11-0, but they were like a fraudulent 11-0. They had played absolutely nobody. I've played people in this league, and it's been the most hosh posh mixed match waiver wire add-ons to get me anywhere. Like I won that game. I won one game because I started Jawan Jennings. Like I picked him up off the waiver wire and got him, and bam, he's hitting for me. I picked up
You mean
Sterling Shepard, who we were just talking about, and and
you mean
and, and
that same Juwan Jennings that you told everybody to start on title time that morning before you blew up too?
Yep,
Yeah.
that would be him. And I started Sterling Shepard the week he scored his touchdown, and I won by like 3 points. Like it is just the most disgusting thing that I'm doing to my opponents in that team. I kind of like it, but at the same time, I know long term it's really not good for me.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's how that powers league is with Hero J. I was just telling him that earlier. Like I'm 4-1 and I got an outside shot at 5-1, but I've wasted away all of my fab and power potential and traded everything away. So it's not very likely it's going to go much further than that.
As of right now, and I know people don't care about not their leagues. I totally get that.
Yeah, we're just having fun. We're talking football.
It's one of our charity leagues. I typically don't play in the charity leagues, but I do play this one because the team was so bad. I felt really bad about giving it to somebody, so I told them I'd take it. I rebuild it for a year or two, and then I'd give it away. But yeah, like we talked about Trey Sermon, he's my starting running back in that league. If Michael Pittman, he said he's going to play. The injury experts have him as out. We really don't know. But I got Josh Downs in that league, so I'm kind of hoping he doesn't play. I mentioned Slayton.
Michael Pittman is playing.
I know he shouldn't. I was going to get to that here in a second.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were already on that. Okay, my bad.
Nope. I got Darius Slayton in that league. I got Andy Dalton. Like those guys are starting for me in this league. That's how bad it is, and I'm projected to win again this week. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
Give me back my guys that are hurt that actually can produce. Like I got Kareem Hunt off the waiver wire in that league. That's been kind of nice. Give me back HN. I need him back from a bye week. I could really use Cooper Kupp back in that league. It's the worst. Anyway, back to the show. Nico Collins is out. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. It's a grade 1. They placed him on injury reserve, so he's going to be out a few more weeks. Michael Pittman, we talked a little bit about him. He's dealing with a lumbar strain. And versus a transverse process fracture versus a herniated disc. In other words, his back is all jacked. That's why I said he should be out. Apparently, he's going to play. He was a full participant in practice on Friday. Joshua Downs also from the Colts. So I would read the whole Colts injury report, and that would be as long as the show, because that injury report has every starting position for the offense on it. Richardson, Taylor. It's got Pittman, Downs. I think, don't you guys have a tight end on here? I know you should.
Well, we have 17 tight ends that would all be the third string tight end for any other NFL team. So I'm sure half of them are hurt. But before this week, it was all defense that was really on that injury report. But the last couple of weeks, the offense is really starting to chip in and catch up as well, and starting to do their part on the injury report.
The offense said, "Hey, what about us?" Um,
Yeah.
so uh, Josh Downs, he's dealing with was most likely considered turf toe. Jacoby Myers is dealing with an ankle sprain. It's likely moderate lateral sprain, but it's possible that's a high ankle sprain. But they gave him a 50% chance to play. Jordan Winnington from the Rams is dealing with a shoulder injury. They're on bye. There's no details. It's most likely an AC sprain. Um, Xavier Legette from the rookie for the Carolina Panthers is dealing with a shoulder injury. It's most likely a mild shoulder injury, likely another AC sprain. So we'll just monitor that in the practice. Um, Raheed Shaheed, who has become surprisingly one of my guys. I want to start him every week because he doesn't realize he's Raheed Shaheed and he just goes out and balls. I might sit him without Derek Carr, though, just throwing that out there. He's dealing with the hip sprain. It's mild. It's most likely a hip flexor or a pointer. Gabe Davis from the Jacksonville Jaguars is dealing with a mild shoulder injury. Again, likely AC sprain. I'm going to try to see if I can get Dr. Jesse Morris on the show while Justin's out. And we're going to talk about some AC sprains because I want to go in depth on those because we see that a lot with these players. Rashard Bateman from the Baltimore, he's dealing with the groin injury. Again, we're going to have to refer to Mark on the size of the groin. Darnell Mooney is with the Falcons. He's dealing with a knee injury. It's most likely a knee sprain. No real details, but he's likely to play. Josh Reynolds from the Denver Broncos. He is officially out. He's got a finger injury. It's a fracture. He might be out even longer. I don't know if anybody was relying on Josh Reynolds, though, outside of a really deep league. The last one I want to touch on, both because we have a comment on it and because he's on the injury report as out, that is major, is Devontae Adams is still dealing with a hamstring strain. So hopefully it's just a grade 1. I think it will magically be healed as soon as he gets traded. That's just my opinion. Justin, I'm going to throw it to you for the rest, and I'm going to step away for just a second.
Okay, very good. So while George is stepping away, I'll actually try to get caught up on some of these comments. I will say, cap for life. Yours is a start sit question. We will get to that at the end of the show. We like to get through the injury updates on this show first. Then, if we see any comments about start sit, we get them at the end. Also, if you have to step away before we get to it, you can always tune in tomorrow morning on the Sunday morning start sit show on Title Time. And then, but what are we doing with Devontae Adams? I mean, technically he's on the injury report, so I think I could stretch it a little bit. We can say that this is a part of the wide receiver injury report here. He's obviously just out because of the whole trade talks. I have my theories on this. I feel strongly that that the reason that the Raiders haven't made anything official yet, even though they said that they want to announce some kind of a deal within the next 48 hours, and that was like 3 days ago. I'm pretty confident this is probably going to be a trade to the Steelers. And the reason they haven't announced it yet is because they play the Steelers this week. They don't want to trade him to the Steelers and then him turn around and play against them and score a touchdown to win the game or something crazy. But I think the Steelers is a hot spot for him. It's probably one of the places that it's narrowed down to. I know that there's been a lot of talks for the Jets and the Saints, but for me, for the amount of salary cap issues or the fact that like they just signed Mike Williams with the Jets and they're not really able to utilize him properly because that offense is just so stagnant. I mean, I don't know. Neither of those locations really make a whole lot of sense to me. But let's see. Play. Okay. Yep. Again, we'll get to that one whenever George is back and at the end here. Gibson cap. So Gibson does have a tougher matchup this week. I will admit that. So Gibson is playing against Houston. I think they're like ninth against PPR running backs, depending on the format you're in or whatever, something like that. But seventh against PPR running backs. But this is going to be the first game that we've seen Gibson without Stevenson at all, like totally without Stevenson. And the only other game that Stevenson was out quite a bit was against the Jets, which was a tough matchup. So Gibson is averaging roughly around 8 points a game, I think, give or take. I don't have him pulled up right now, but without Stevenson there at all, him getting the full workload, I do think he gets into double digits. Let's see, another start sit we'll get to at the end. Definitely holding Devontae. If that's what you meant by what are we doing with them, yes, I agree. We're holding him, but if the right guy comes knocking with the right amount of to give up for him, then I'm not afraid to go ahead and trade him off. But All right, we're going to go back to the comments here in a little bit once we get through the rest of the injury report. But my man George did hit up the wide receivers that are new on the list. I'm going to go through and hit the rest of these wide receivers. George, I know, while you were gone, all I really did was get caught up on some of the comments. So we'll finish up getting caught up on the comments later. But let's see, Malik Neighbors. A traumatic brain injury. He's at 50-50 right now, but I would imagine that he's probably going to play this week. Chris Olave, hamstring injury. He's in. Deontay Johnson's in. Other 100% in guys. AJ Brown, don't have to worry about him after the injury and after the bye week. He's good to go. Devonta Smith had time to rest up his concussion after the bye week. He's good to go. We already saw Debo play, and he played very effectively, I might add. Jalen Reed also going to play very effectively this week. He's 100% ready to roll. We'll see bye week. Cooper Kupp still injured. We're hoping that he can possibly come back really soon. Dr. Jesse Morris does say that Cooper Kupp has a high re-injury risk with that left high ankle sprain. So just have to wait and see what happens there. But hopefully he comes back really soon. We need all of those Rams wide receivers to come back really soon.
You ain't lying.
See, Devontae Adams is out. We already talked about that. Let's see. Any other mid-level guys that we have to stop and think about? Romeo Doubs, it's 50-50 on here just because it's a suspension. But from what I understand, he is good to go. It's not actually an injury issue, so he should be good to go for this week. Play him at your own risk sort of thing. Like either he made noise and they're going to listen and give him the ball, or he made noise and they're going to listen and sit his ass. Either way, you start at your own risk on that one. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it for the Khalil Shakir. Right moderate lateral ankle. From what I understand about those, if it's lateral, if it's just like lateral, like even, like mid, like it's not that serious, so he'll probably play. That's the best that this nurse can offer for you. But so my guess is Shakir plays.
I want to touch real quick on Malik Neighbors. Kevin down here in the comments, he has hit it correct on the head. Looking at the official Giants team injury report, again, Malik Neighbors for week 6 is out. He's in the concussion protocol, not practice all week. They have him on the officially is out for the game status.
Good.
Along with on Thibodeaux, for those of you who are in IDP leagues.
Right on. Okay, cool. So thank you very much. I appreciate that update. I did see a notification pop up on my phone yesterday, but it was while we were in class, so I should have went back and looked at that. So that's my fault. I apologize. But on to the tight ends, the new tight ends that are on the list. Tommy Tremble doesn't really affect a whole lot in terms of fantasy football, but again, it is another concussion. So looking out for these guys with concussions, man. Use the Guardian caps, guys. Let's see how much that helps, please.
I was listening to some people talk yesterday about these Guardian caps, and the Guardian cap alone, while it helps, apparently with the studies that they're doing, and take this with a grain of salt because the studies are being done on the NFL by the NFL, and let's face it, they don't care about player safety. Anybody who thinks the NFL cares about player safety, I have oceanfront property in the middle of North Dakota. It is for sale, and it is cheap. You can get that beachfront property from North Dakota for me at any time you want. But with that being said,
I think the song goes Arizona, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I want to make sure that they immediately know that it is in North Dakota, because that's how much the NFL cares about player safety. They just don't.
Yeah,
and there is zero chance to have beachfront property in North Dakota. But no. So the study was that the position specific caps are actually better for the players to prevent injuries than the Guardian caps, even though the Guardian caps do help. Now, what immediately comes to my mind is, okay, if you got these position specific caps, and that's the way that they are designed, and that's what uh, they're they're designed to help with player safety in mind and to prevent concussions. Why not wear a guardian cap on top of that? Wouldn't that
Right.
even further help with the concussion protocols and players
Right.
getting concussions? Like, it does not make no sense at all. Um, I'm going to address this also real quick with Tua needing a guardian cap and bubble wrap, and then a jail cell around him in the pocket. While I do agree with Mr. Anthony here, he needs a line in front of him. On this show, we don't tolerate Tua slander. And by me, by on this show, I mean me. I am the Dolphin guy here, okay? I am the Miami Dolphins guy. I will not tolerate any Tua slander here. Tua is a great individual. He's a great person. We don't slander great people. Leave Tua alone. The man
That's
just
not
wants to play
true.
football.
I will
That's,
only slander Tua because I
you.
know it affects George.
This is true. This is absolutely true.
All right,
Okay.
let me get back to these tight end. Oh, sorry, were you done?
Yeah, I was laughing at this. I live a little north of the 305. I'm up in Brevard County, over by the Space Coast. That's where I live. So even though you're in Miami, there still will be no Tua slander.
All right, Tucker Kraft is in and primed and ready for another big game. Tyler Conklin is in. Let's see. Mike Gesicki is 50-50 right now. He could play, but his type of injury, a hamstring strain, is risky. Minor knee sprain, likely to play for David Njoku. So we might get to see David Njoku back out there again this week. And then with the other tight ends, we only have a couple that are out. We got Luke Musgrave and Taysom Hill. So Taysom is more intriguing with the Derek Carr injury. If Taysom can come back before Derek Carr is back, and then we get to see Spencer Rattler at quarterback this week to see what he can offer, there is a chance that Taysom could have another one of his big blow-up weeks if he can get back before Carr does. And play all over the field again and help out that offense. It seems like it would be one of those situations where he would have one of his big games if you can slide him into that tight end role and get those gadget points. George Kittle played again. He had another touchdown.
Two touchdowns. Two. Give the man. Two touchdowns.
We can pretty much stop putting him on this injury report. I know it says he has rib injuries, but I think really what they mean to say is he's eating celebratory barbecue ribs after every game.
Absolutely. So, he's out there eating.
Yeah, yes. Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, and Jake Ferguson all in this week. Evan Ingram, he's another one of your risky plays. It looks like he's going to play this week. So, but again, hamstring, re-injury risk. It's kind of risky. I am an Evan Ingram owner in several leagues, and I'm kind of leery about it, but also looking at the numbers he put up last season, if they're saying he's ready to play and he's missed this many weeks, he's missed 5 weeks now, or four games because he went out early in week 1. I kind of feel like you have to start him and really hope for the best, especially with the tight end landscape being what it is. So go ahead and start him. And if he fails, you're not going to be alone. I'm right here with you. We'll get through it together as we navigate through this Evan Ingram saga. So we're going to go back up to closer to the top of the comments here. We're done with the injury report, but we want to answer some of these other questions here, George. So this is a 14-team PPR league for Cap for Life. He said that he needs a flex spot. He's got Gibson, Adonai Mitchell, Dalton Schultz, and then we'll answer the rest of it. So he's got those 3. Unless the thoughts on Vidal is also part of this, but if that's the case, I'm still not going Vidal in any way. But you got Gibson, you got Mitchell, and you got Schultz. What are you thinking?
So, given that it's a 14-team league, I'm not trusting Adonai Mitchell from the Colts. A lot of hype around him as a rookie, but I don't get it. I really, really don't. Dalton Schultz is a good option for the Texans. They are playing the Patriots. Patriots actually have a half decent defense. But the one that jumps off the page for me is Gibson. He is going to be the starting running back with what's his name out, Ramondre Stevenson officially being out. He is not playing. Gibson is going to get the starting role. He is also the pass catching back there, so you do like to see the pass catchers in the PPR league. For me, I'm 100% going with Gibson. As for thoughts on Vidal, in a 14-team league, I would stash him just because I don't believe J.K. Dobbins is going to remain healthy for the rest of the year. I don't believe that Gus Edwards is ever going to remain healthy. I got to watch Vidal at the Senior Bowl. He is a good running back. He really, really is. But I would not somebody in a 12-team league I would even stash. But because this is a 14-team where depth is going to be an issue and the league is a little bit deeper, I would stash him, but he's not somebody I'm playing this week. And I need to see them give him an opportunity. He's just coming off the injuries. This is the first time he's been active all year. So definitely somebody I don't mind stashing in a deeper league, but not somebody I want to trust at all.
Yeah, so you're going with Gibson here then.
Yeah. Oh, with easily, yes.
Yeah, it's not even close for me either. With Stevenson out, here's the thing you need to know about Adonai Mitchell as a Colts fan. Okay, here's all you need to know. Here's his stats with Anthony Richardson: 5 targets, 1 catch for 2 yards. 4 targets, 1 catch. 1 target, 0 catches. That was in the tight game against Chicago where it was more of a positive game script. Adonai had a couple of small nagging injuries where he kept going in and out. 3 targets, 0 catches. Then we get Joe Flacco, 7 targets. He had 4 catches for 38 yards. I mean, he had a decent game. He almost hit double digits in PPR. Anthony Richardson cannot hit his target, period. Like, so in that offense, if you have Michael Pittman, you have to start him because he's going to get more targets, so he has more opportunity to actually hit the guy. If you have Alec Pierce, you have a better likelihood because Pierce is super fast and he can track down those horribly thrown passes where he can just track it down and go get it for those 60-yard gains if you're lucky. That sort of thing. You can't start most of the targets for Anthony Richardson. Now, if Flacco comes back the following week, maybe you can start throwing Mitchell in there. But watch the Colts games. He's overthrowing his targets by 5 or 10 yards, and then he'll come back out and he'll underthrow them by 5 yards. It's insane to me. Thoughts on Vidal overall on the season? I think he is there enough to keep us from having anything to do with him or Gus Edwards. Pretty much is all it does is it helps ensure that it's time to cut Gus Edwards. And that's all that does. I think it's still J.K. Dobbins 100% of the way. And if Dobbins goes down, then it's going to be more of a split backfield. So,
yep.
So I'm not too concerned about Vidal at this point. So yeah, I'm also going with Gibson here. So we already hit that one. What we got? Would you play? I'm assuming
that's Deontay Johnson. Yeah, I'm assuming it's Deontay Johnson or Terry McLaurin.
Okay.
I'm going. Listen, Terry McLaurin has been my guy all year. I'm sticking with McLaurin over Johnson, even though Johnson is my 1B, my guy. I liked both of these guys coming into the year. I like the fact that they did the quarterback change for Deontay Johnson. That has definitely helped improve his stats. But I'm still going with Terry McLaurin. He's the clear number one receiving threat for Jaden Daniels. That's the guy I'm rolling with.
Yeah, so on McLaurin was my guy for George last year too. Like George has been on McLaurin for some time because of his talent alone, and there were spots where I kind of fell for it and it bit me. So because of that, I have not trusted George and McLaurin this year as my guy, and now that's biting me because he's been right about him this year. So I'm starting to kind of change my mind again on McLaurin, and I'm leaning heavily towards him in most situations. But in this particular spot, Deontay Johnson just has a really good matchup that I feel like I can't give up. And I know McLaurin is playing Baltimore. Baltimore, their secondary is depleted, especially on the outside against wide receivers. I do think McLaurin has a big game, but Deontay Johnson going up against Atlanta in that situation, like I can't bench anybody going up against Atlanta. And I feel like the offense, I think Andy Dalton can get it right again this week against Atlanta. Personally, I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson here. So that gives you a tie. So unfortunately, that means you now have to tune in tomorrow morning to Title Time. Ask the question again when we have more guys on the panel so that you can get more expert opinion from those guys as well. What time does that start? Like 10:30, 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock to roughly about 12:15.
Gotcha. All right, let's see. Start one. ETJ.
Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh, okay. Thomas Jr. Okay. Well, oh, shoot. I was going to say I almost don't have to read the rest of these, but then I read the rest of these. This is a tough one. Oh, man. I love Brian Thomas Jr. Just about any given week. Did you look at this one ahead of time by chance?
No, but I know who I would start here. And here I would go with
for
Dion. So I'm curious, Jay Smells, is this a full PPR, half PPR, or standard league? I'm leaning Deontay Johnson here. Tanks Bigsby, listen, he had a one big run last week, and he scored the touchdown. He's been cutting into the workload there for Travis Etienne, but I'm still not sold that Tanks Bigsby is a guy you want to rely on. It's full PPR. I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson here. For me, I would rank these: Deontay Johnson, Brian Thomas Jr., Tank Bigsby, Kyle Pitts.
Okay. All right. So first off, you need to try to trade Kyle Pitts, man. If anybody's willing to take him, if you can't, he is such a tough guy to own and roster because, like, everybody the week before last week was saying, "I'm never starting Kyle Pitts again." And then he goes off for 15 fantasy points in PPR, had a great game, and now everybody's like, "Shit, do I start? Do I start Kyle Pitts?" And this is why you don't roster Kyle Pitts. Unfortunately, he's just too inconsistent. But I love these other three options. For me, tie goes to the running back, and I think that Bigsby is really, really close to a tie here. But I just love that matchup with Deontay Johnson too much. Bigsby's good. I think that Bigsby is a talented running back. It's going to do something great. If the and his matchup against Chicago is really good as well, but I just feel like in that Chicago game, we're going to see more of a game script where they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. Again, a get right game for the Panthers. I'm going to go Deontay Johnson number one, then Tank Bigsby, then Brian Thomas Jr., who I also love this week. And then, like I said, whatever I said about Kyle Pitts.
Did you say a get-right game for the Panthers?
That's right.
Wow, that's something we never thought we'd hear Justin say this year. A get-right game for the Panthers. Wow.
What's wrong with that? They had it going for a couple weeks. Then they faltered last week. Now they're going to get it right again.
I don't know if there's a such thing as a get-right game for the Panthers.
I'm not saying get right as in now they're going to make a run and head to the playoffs. I'm saying get right as in maybe nobody gets fired this week.
Oh, okay. Just for a little clarification, on my rankings, I going back to the previous question with Terry McLaurin and Deontay Johnson, I literally have Terry McLaurin ranked 15 this week, Deontay Johnson 16, and for kicks and giggles because he's in this question, I have Brian Thomas Jr. ranked 17. So the ones that we were real close on in my rankings, they are literally back to back to back. McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Brian Thomas Jr. Just thought I'd let you guys know that.
All right. Very good. I'm going to try to handle this one. Thoughts on Trey Benson. So Benson's utilization went up quite quite a bit this past week. I don't know if that was game script or if they really wanted to just see what the kid had, but he did look pretty solid. He had a pretty decent game actually last week against Washington. He had 5 PPR fantasy points. He didn't have a single catch, but he did have 50 yards on the ground on 9 carries. So a 5.6 yard per carry average is nothing to bat an eye about. And we do know that there is an injury history with James Conner. I don't think that Benson is fantasy relevant until Conner goes down. But if you're the Conner owner and you have the free roster spot, maybe hold on to Benson. And then, or if you have any roster spot in a deeper league, you can hold on to Benson. And if Conner goes down, you've got trade value to the Conner owner, or you have an upgraded running back room. The problem is I think it's going to be a running back by committee if that does happen, if Conner goes down, because you got Benson, you got DeMarcado, who still owes me $60 in fab money from last season, and we have DJ Dallas there. So there is a bit of a running back by committee there if Conner goes down, but I don't hate the roster if you have the spot for him.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So hold Benson. This is Anthony was chiming in. Hold Benson if you have room. Conner always yep, there you go. So pretty much exactly what we were just saying. So yep, very good. Like it. Let's see.
Here we go, Justin. This
yep,
is just
it happens.
Just for you.
They need to get right season. I agree. I'm not a Panthers fan, by the way. I don't understand why George targeted me on that comment.
Because you said a get right game for the Panthers.
I'm also not a Panthers hater though. So all right. Yeah, Anthony agrees with McLaurin. Yeah, and he does play immediately. If he gets traded, he could be traded the day before the game and he's gonna play.
He'll be out there playing.
But that's part of the reason why I think, I don't know if you heard that when you stepped away. I think that Adams goes to the Steelers after this week's game because the Raiders are playing the Steelers this week, and I feel like that's why they've been putting off making
trading
anything officially happen. Yeah, so that's kind of how I'm viewing that because I think they need to get him out of there to move.
You know where
he's ready to go.
You know where he's not going?
What's that?
To the crappy Jets.
Yeah, see, that's what I said too. Too. Yeah,
not going to the Jets.
We agreed with that one too for the most part. We're kind of forcing him to tune in tomorrow.
The one thing that was the reason why I have McLaurin ranked ahead of Deontay Johnson. Baltimore is 31st currently against wide receivers. The only team that is worse against wide receivers in the NFL this week is Jacksonville. And Deontay Johnson has a great matchup against the Falcons, like Justin mentioned, but the Falcons are 21st against opposing wide receivers as far as fantasy points allowed. So the matchup for me is the only reason I have McLaurin where I have him. But like I said, McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Brian Thomas Jr., who, by the way, of those three has the toughest matchup. He gets Chicago. Chicago's number 3 against opposing wide receivers. They're all literally ranked 15, 16, 17 in my rankings. So,
and I think we may be looking at a scoring format that's just a little bit slightly different because the one I was looking at still has Deontay more, or has Brian Thomas Jr. still more better matchup, but it was a lot closer. I think it was like 28th Baltimore was, and then 22nd for Atlanta. So, but still, regardless,
splitting hairs.
I think for me, the only reason that he overcomes the matchup deficit is because of the game script, and that's why I went that way. But I'm more of a guy that likes to look at narratives, so take that for what. Let's see. He traded Chase Brown for Devontae Adams. I like it because of that split in Cincinnati, especially if you're confident with your running backs after the trade.
And Chase Brown's not that good.
Devontae Adams, wherever he goes, he doesn't need a good quarterback to be a good wide receiver for fantasy. So I like that. And I did catch that, George. That would be really funny if certain guys on the team were on the show right now.
It really would be. It really would be. Don't worry. I'll make sure I mention that again.
There you go. Anthony agrees with us. See, just saw. Yep, Neighbors
Yep.
ruled out. Did not practice again for James Cook. There you go. So let's dive into James Cook just a little bit real quick, because I do know they had the one backup that was that's out as well. So I want to look at who else is on that roster real quick. James Cook. So of course Ray Davis. Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson's the guy that gets the go for me. And I know Ray Davis has gotten several opportunities this season, but as the season has gone and progressed more and more, Ty Johnson's the guy that's been actually doing more with the opportunities that he's given. He's averaging 1.4 yards per carry more than Ray Davis is, and he has those touchdowns to boot on top of that. So to me, it's Ty Johnson. And Darrington Evans was the guy that went down early in the offseason that is on IR. So that's the one that I was trying to think of. But he was the guy that I thought was going to be fighting with Ray Davis when the offseason started this year for the backup role. But anyway, yeah, so fire up Ty Johnson this week if you have the opportunity to get him, especially with the question marks behind James Cook. Let's see. What else do we got? Yeah, Ray Davis off waivers. Cook ain't playing. So, yeah, if Ray Davis is available, you start him as well. I just think Ty Johnson's going to do more with what he gets. It should be a split backfield there. Either way, I wouldn't be upset with it. Houston running back group is a mess, absolutely. But Mixon coming back is definitely very helpful there. We already got through this. Carr really can't stay healthy, which is a shame. Yeah, very much so. Okay, pick 2. Darnell Mooney, Jameson Williams, or Olave.
Well, J-Mo is a must for me of this 3. He's the must start. I'm even with Spencer Rattler, I'm still going to roll the dice on Chris Olave. He's their short yard guy. He's their underneath guy. He's their slant guy. No disrespect to Michael Thomas, but he runs a lot of their slants, their underneath stuff. I don't expect Spencer Rattler to be able to completely open up the offense and chuck it downfield a whole lot. So I think he's going to look for a lot for the tight ends. I think he's going to look for Kamara underneath and Olave underneath as well. So I'll go with Olave.
Man, this is tough for me, Anthony, because this is now the first time all season that I'm going to go against a guy that I have started in every single possible situation.
Which is Darnell Mooney.
No, it's Jameson Williams. So I'm the guy that was super high on JMO all offseason. I rostered him in, I think, 10 of my 12 redraft leagues this year. Like, crazy high on him. I was crazy high on Rashee Rice. And then also the other wide receiver that recently went down. But anyway, I love JMO to death. But unfortunately, because of these matchups, Mooney, I think, and Olave are going to get the targets, and they both have really good matchup. Jameson doesn't get as many targets, and he has a tougher matchup. So we need him. Like, if you start JMO, he has to perform to get the points that you need, whereas Olave and Mooney could get there even if they don't perform super well because of the backup quarterback or because of Cousins being the quarterback, because sometimes Cousins comes back down to earth after 500 yards passing. So, but I still think I'm going to go with Mooney and Olave just strictly from the usage alone. So again, sorry to make it a tie for you, but at least you know you're going Olave, and then you can tune in tomorrow and ask about Mooney or JMO when we have a bigger panel on the board here. Yep, New Orleans always falls off late. Yeah, Gibson, no question. That was for an earlier question. Jacoby Myers, who's the 3 in Vegas?
So it doesn't matter who the 3 is in Vegas. To be honest, you're rolling out Aiden O'Connell, okay? Do you really want to trust Aiden O'Connell to be able to make a 3 wide receivers 3 receivers in general fantasy relevant in Las Vegas? No, you absolutely don't. it does not matter. It's irrelevant. The only players who you should be starting for the Raiders, honestly, is Brock Bowers and Alexander Madison, and that is really it. I don't want anything to do with any of the wide receiving threats outside of the tight end. Um, and that's because they just put who was the second round pick that they drafted last year, the tight end. Do you remember, Justin?
Oh,
It's
you mean before Brock Bowers?
yeah, they drafted
Michael Mayer?
Michael
Michael
Mayer.
Mayer? Yeah.
I believe they put him on the NFI list. If I'm not mistaken, I think I seen that this morning. So he's going to be out at least 4 games. So it's going to be not that it hasn't been wheels up for Brock Bowers anyway. He's been the best tight end, one of the best tight ends for fantasy this year. But even more so that within the next 4 weeks, there's going to be no Michael Myers. So it doesn't matter who the 3 in Vegas is. It's irrelevant because Aiden O'Connell, or Gardner Minshew are the quarterbacks, and neither one of those guys are making a third wide receiver relevant.
So I want to also say that they have Michael Gallup and Hunter Renfrow still on the roster for the Vegas Raiders. Neither of them have played at all this season or have recorded a stat at least.
No.
So what are those 2 guys doing on the roster and not playing ahead of a guy like DJ Turner or Trey Tucker? Like, there's something else going on there too. Like, this team is just bad. It's almost like they're trying to lose. So, man, I have Trey Tucker in some deeper, desperate leagues. I'm even starting him in one this week because of all those wide receiver injuries that I talked about that I've been hit with. But I mean, I don't like it. I'm not confident in it. It's just a desperation play. But how are they not throwing out Hunter Renfrow and Michael Gallup over a guy like Trey Tucker? Just none of this makes sense to me. Let's see. Achan. Here's an Achan question. So this goes to you. He says he needs to be cleared next week. He said he's 2-3. Rice and Achan hurt me. Yep.
I just need to know where Achan hurt you. Like, what are you talking about? He hurt you? No, I get it. I listen. I get it. It was a joke. No, I agree. The Dolphins need him back. I think we have seen with Achan, he's not capable of being a true 3-down workhorse back. He needs a second running back. That's why they spent a 3rd round. They traded a 3rd round pick next year in the 4th round to jump up to get Jalen Wright, because they know that Achan needs help. It's no surprise that as soon as Raheem Mostert went down, that Dolphins running game looked like crap. It's not a surprise at all. Jalen Wright's a rookie, still learning the plays. It's a very complex book that they run scheme that they run down in Miami. It's not like he's just going to go in there and do anything. No, it's going to take time. It's going to take adjustment. You got to learn that scheme. It's very difficult. And it's no surprise that when Raheem Mostert came back last week, all of a sudden the running game looks competent again. Say what you want about Raheem Mostert. He actually is a very important piece to that offense. And I think Achan is one of these guys who is going to be better having limited touches. And by limited, I mean 10 to 12 touches total in a game versus, 15 to 18 touches. I just think it's one of those things where we've seen it with Tony Pollard a couple of years ago, where he was behind Zeke and he looked great behind Zeke, but Zeke was doing all the short yardage work. He was doing all the bruising work. And then they were using Tony Pollard to come in and because he was fresher and whatnot, he just looked better. And then when we seen what happened when Tony Pollard got a full chance to be the guy, it just did not work out. Injuries had a lot to do with that, but it's still he's not built that way. Neither is Achan. That's why they went and got Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright's the bigger back. He's going to be the bruising back for the Dolphins. He's more likely to go in between the tackles. But yeah, long story short, we definitely want Achan to be back because of his explosiveness and his viability in the passing game. But yeah, it's just we want everybody to come back.
Yeah, fair enough.
We
All
really
right.
do. We really do.
Yeah, Flacco does spread the love. I'm going to talk about this team real quick. Jay Smell says, thought on this team, which is an incredible team. And before I dig deeper into that, I do want to say we finally found Anthony McPhee's weakness, because so far I've been agreeing with almost everything he said. He's been agreeing with almost everything we've said, but he must be a Jaguars fan, which would be a huge weakness if that's the case. If you're going to make a trade to get rid of Rashad White and Pollard for a guy that's losing carries to Tank Bigsby, when you already have Tank Bigsby on this roster. So that's the one. No fault there. I mean, if you are a Jaguars fan, it is what it is. We feel bad for you, but this particular team is incredible. This is a really nice team right here. I think the only thing I see on there that I might do, the only real kind of weakness, if you would be at tight end, and that's just because McBride hasn't quite played up to his level, and then Pitts is just so bad as far as like consistency goes. Your running backs are really good on this team. So I would probably take Brooks, because he's the question mark on this team. We don't know what Brooks is going to offer when he gets back. I would take Brooks, maybe try to find the Hubbard owner or any other running back team that's running back needy. Take Hubbard and Pitts, package them together to try to get a little bit better tight end if that's at all possible. And go from there. I don't see a whole lot of need on this team outside of that would make your team that much better.
I see on looking at this team. I'm curious on what the team record is, because a lot of these guys like are good, but it reeks of injury and disappointment. And right. I mean, Rashad White, disappointment. Breece Hall, let me tell you, I had him as the number one running back coming into this year. The way he looked last year with that crappy ass Jets team, and he was a top 5 running back. And then they bring back Aaron Rodgers, and I didn't think that they were going to be throwing the ball a lot with Aaron Rodgers. 41 years old, coming off an Achilles injury. Like, they're not going to drop him back 30 to 40 times a game to chuck the rock. Listen, we're done with those days with Aaron Rodgers. I thought for sure they'd lean heavily on the run, but man, I did not see them giving the rookie the workload that he's been getting, and Breece Hall just taking just a huge cut in production. Stroud's been great. Jordan Love injury. Deontay Johnson, disappointment at the beginning of the year. Finally got a quarterback, Malik Neighbors. He's now out. Brian Thomas Jr. has been hit and miss. McBride has been injured, but he's back. Hopefully he can regain his form. Kyle Pitts, disappointment outside last week. Chase Brown, he sucks. Jonathan Brooks is injured. Yeah. Like, a lot of good on this team. I like Tony Pollard. For fantasy purposes, like, Tony Pollard has been a fantastic running back. I would take Tony Pollard over Travis Etienne any day. If anything, I would sell Bigsby if you wanted to upgrade, but somewhere else. But this team is probably 2-3, 3-2, depending on if you hit the guys on the weeks that they lined up. It's a lot of great players. Just it reeks of injury and disappointment, and that unfortunately is sad, because you got a lot of guys that I really do like on that team.
Yeah, but this is where the best fantasy football managers come into play at this point of the season. If you have a team like this, you just have to be patient, and it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to be patient. If you've started off 1-4, 2-3, and you see all this talent, you see these guys score 2 touchdowns one week, and then they're sitting in your bench the next week. Like, it can be frustrating. I get it.
Hit and miss,
and for the record, Anthony, I did give you some love. I said that we've agreed with everything else that you said. So, and I didn't see he did make a comment after that up above about where was it? About Pitts. He said that he should have traded Pitts off the week before, and I agree with that. And then also he wants to confirm that he's not a Jaguars fan. He said he's a Jets fan, so we feel even more bad for you, my man. But
that dude has been hardened by disappointment. I'll tell you what, his
entire life. All right, let's see.
But you know what? I will say this about Jets fans. Okay. Listen, we all know if you're up in New York, you have this tough persona. You deal with the weather. You deal with a whole bunch of crap that you got to deal with up in New York and whatnot. But Jets fans, you can always fall back on the fact that unlike that crappy team that actually plays in New York, the only team that plays in New York, by the way, the Buffalo Bills. You guys have a championship. The Buffalo Bills do not. So when it's all said and done, even though Justin's Indianapolis Colts hold more AFC East titles, and they don't even play in the AFC East anymore than the Jets, you guys still have a Super Bowl ring, and the Buffalo Bills do not. So Buffalo Bills, you guys can suck it.
All right. We definitely need to wrap this thing up, though. This is a injury update show, and we've delved into a lot of other stuff here.
It's okay though. The comments have been fired today. We absolutely love it.
You can start Tyrone Tracy depending on what your other issues are. He did show that he's a talent. Yeah, your other options. Yeah, he did show that he is a talented running back, and Singletary should probably still play. But yeah, so what I'm meaning is, like, if it's super deep league, if you have no other options, if you need help just for this week, I mean, there's worse options out there. Probably not starting them though. Just tune in tomorrow and give us all of your options on Title Time. We'll be able to help you out there. Let's see. Gonna scroll through most of these and just move on, but I'd say probably likely over Njoku this week. I want to see what Njoku in that offense looks like now that the entire team has given up on Watson, and the entire team is really bad now. Now that Njoku's back, I don't think that raises anything up. Likely has the potential this week as well, so I'd go likely if these are my two options. Probably going to go with Slayton here with Neighbors being out. Let's see, Gibson or Moss. Going to go Gibson. I've already said I'm worried about that split in Cincinnati with them both being injured. And then Tolbert over Dowdle. That one's almost a no-brainer for me.
Yep.
No, probably. Let's see, Gibson's. All right, guys, it looks like most of these, if we haven't gotten to them, if I've missed it as I'm scrolling through these, just tune in tomorrow and ask on the Start Sit Show. Start Sit Show. I don't know if I said that incorrectly, but going Goff. Okay, because he's answering another question. Appreciate you in there chiming in and answering the other guys' questions.
He's answering this one right here, which is a fascinating question. I also would go with Jared Goff. The over on that game is a lot higher. Josh Allen is playing at the Jets. Jets defensive coordinator is now the new head coach, or at least the interim head coach. I really do like Jeff Ulbrich. I think he's a very bright guy. I got to talk with him at the Senior Bowl this past year, where he was the head coach. I think it was for the national team. Really, really smart guy, really good guy. I expect them to continue to be dominant on defense. Josh Allen coming off the ankle injury where they cured it with smelling salts. Listen, he was knocked out on the field. Okay, that dude suffered a concussion. I don't care what anybody wants to say, but I would go with Jared Goff. He's playing at Dallas. It's an indoor game. Jared Goff indoors. The over/under's higher. The Lions, I believe, are coming off of a bye week, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. I would 100% go with Goff.
Yeah, and also on the Goff end, with that bye week, that means that they've also had all of their little small injury issues have all had time to heal up and get better, so they're healthier headed into the game as well. So I'm going to go with Goff as well, but I think that one's probably going to be close.
And this was the last one that I seen that I wanted to address real quick, and then if there was anything new. There's one more after that, and then we can get out of here.
Okay, so go ahead.
Juju Smith-Schuster. He's a guy I'm not starting this week, and you could come at me with how shallow the wide receiver pool in Kansas City is right now, and I totally get that. No Rashee Rice. They still have Xavier Worthy. No Hollywood Brown. Like, I get Juju's there. And listen, I get it. Great game last week. He had 8 targets, 7 receptions, 130 yards. He had that long bomb that was played on loop in on ESPN and Fox Sports One and all that, and all the talk shows were talking about Juju's 50-yard catch from Patrick Mahomes, and that's great. And he looked great, and he was playing against the New Orleans, and that was at home. This week he's going to go on the road to the Chargers. The Chargers are not a great secondary team. They've got some issues up front. Bosa's not going to be there. That's going to help Patrick Mahomes. But the problem is, I don't think.
No, he's not playing the Chargers this week.
Oh no! I'm sorry. You're right. Who are they playing? They played the Chargers.
I thought you were making a big joke about why you're not starting him this week because they're on bye this week.
Well, that too. That's why I don't know who they're playing this week. No, I was looking at the ESPN stats for him so far this year, and I get he just got there and he was there last year, but like even when he was there last year and there really wasn't a whole lot there, they spread the ball so much. I'm just not willing to trust Juju Smith-Schuster. He's bombed on every team he's ever been on except for that 1 year where he looked really, really good in Pittsburgh. Outside of that, like he's been garbage everywhere he's gone. I'm not trusting Juju Smith-Schuster. I would trust him as like my wide receiver 5 on my team.
I'm not afraid to pick him up.
But bye-week replacement for me only.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to pick him up and see what he's got and see how things shake out, especially with so many wide receiver injuries across the league. So, but I'm probably not starting him very early on. Obviously, this week they're on bye. The following week they play San Francisco, so situational matchup. Maybe if you're desperate, week 8 against the Raiders, definitely starting him then. And then by then we're going to get a good idea of how much usage he's going to have in that offense, and we can go from there. So sure, pick him up and wait and see what happens. What was the other one that you wanted to show there?
There's a couple that came in. We'll hit these real quick, but it's going to be quick. Schultz or McBride. For me personally, I'm going to go with McBride. There's just less mouths to feed in that offense.
I can agree with that. I can agree with McBride. He's kind of underperformed when he's been out there, but I think he has an opportunity to play good this week against the Packers.
Yep. Oscar's asking, trade his Tyreek Hill, and they're giving garbage. He has CD. What do you think? Hill, McLaurin, and Bucky Irvin for Lamb and Jonathan Brooks. Both schedules perfect half of the end of the season. And this may be my Dolphin bias showing here. I want the Hill, McLaurin, and Irving side, to be honest. I'm a big Jonathan Brooks guy. I've been saying all year if he was not coming off an ACL, he would have been a first-round pick in this NFL draft. The issue is I still don't think they're going to give him a true 3-down workload coming back from his ACL once he does come back. I think Chuba Hubbard's played well enough to where he's still going to be a factor. Where at least with Bucky Irvin, he seems to be going in the right direction for the Tampa Bay. I love McLaurin. That is my guy. And as far as Hill goes, listen, Tua's coming back. He's going to be back, and he will what's it called? He absolutely will regain his form with Tua back. So hold on to Hill right now, even though you are getting Lamb, who I absolutely love CeeDee Lamb. My biggest question, honestly, for this is Jonathan Brooks. But I think if you could do Hill and Irving for Lamb and Brooks, that's a lot closer for me. But I'm not giving up McLaurin. And with that trade, that's just not going to happen.
I don't know. I think I'd rather have the Lamb side personally. I think Lamb is going to outscore Tyreek rest of the season, and I'm not confident it's even going to be all that close. But the Brook side, the Brook part of that trade does actually scare me just a bit. But it's a 3-for-2 deal. So I would want to see what other third player you could throw in there to make it 3-for-3, because he's probably going to have to cut somebody anyway. So give me the Lamb side plus that extra player, and I would go from there.
So far, he misspelled Sam Darnold. Believe it or not, you can come at me if you want.
Okay. I thought
you misspelled Sam Darnold for MVP. I'm just saying.
I thought he was misspelling for free agent. by putting
No.
MVP.
George, I would do that if I'm getting the McLaurin and Achane side. I would do that for McLaurin and Achane. David Montgomery and Christian Kirk for McLaurin and Achane. Yeah, if I'm getting McLaurin and Achane, I'm doing that. If I'm getting Montgomery and Christian Kirk, I'm probably not.
Yeah, I want McLaurin and Achane.
Jalen Daniels, listen, he's not going to be MVP. Listen, it's a great story with him, but he's not going to be the MVP. He's going to be Rookie of the Year. There's no doubt in my mind he is Rookie of the Year. There's a Y in Jaden, by the way, but there's absolutely no doubt in my mind he's going to be Rookie of the Year as long as he stays healthy the rest of the year. But he's not going to be MVP. He won't even be in the discussion, believe it or not.
But that game is going to be phenomenal this week.
Yeah, and I love Jaden Daniels. I loved him coming out. Oh my, I loved him. What's my record? It depends on the league you're talking about. I got a league I'm 5-0, and I've got a league I'm 0-5. That's going to happen when you play in as many leagues as I do. I'm in about 14 of them, and those are just the ones those are just the ones I play in, not the ones I commission. I've got about another 12 that I'm the commissioner of. So it really just depends on which league you're talking about. Most of them I'm slightly above 500, and that is it.
I think we're good. I think that takes us out. Talking to George in comments.
Okay, sorry, they're talking to me up here.
All right. Well, that's it for TGIF. You guys can see it scrolling at the bottom. It's patreon.com/Loyalists Titles. We have several different tiers where we offer several different things for all different budgets. So we appreciate your contributions to the network. And George, man, stay safe down there. Keep doing that thing down there in Florida, and let us know if you need anything. But I think we're out.
If you've been with us all show, do me a favor real quick. Hit the subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. This way, you did what? Anyway, I'm not even going to acknowledge that. That doesn't deserve to be on the show. Hit the likes button. Hit the subscribe button. We'll be here tomorrow at 10 o'clock. There'll be a panel of us for title time. It really does help with the algorithms. And we put a lot of work and effort into our shows. So if you take anything from today's show and you're new here, at least hit the like and subscribe button. That alone will help us out a lot. We appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow morning.